Joe, what do
You know, it's the remember, Joseph's still sick. That's hence the depleted energy.
Joe, what do you know?
It's the two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to. So now we're going to find a couple of things for Joseph to talk about. I'm wondering. Okay, Danny, you go first.
Not cold fusion.
Cold fusion. Oh yeah. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay. Can I think of anything? Okay. Can I think of anything in line with cold fusion?
Please don't.
No. Okay. No, I can. The Cold War.
Okay.
Awesome.
So, Cold Fusion is on Europe. Cold War is on Heart.
Can't the Cold War be on Europe?
Okay, the Cold War is on Europe. Cold
Didn't
Fusion.
really involve you. Or Russia.
Oh, didn't it, Danny? Well, I'd like to live in your naive little bubble.
It's the Cold War.
Great.
Okay. Alright. The Cold War
Yep.
was a terrible place.
Oh God.
Now, I could go
Yep.
down the obvious path of saying that it's a really, really cold war.
Yeah.
Ice everywhere in it.
But heaven forbid, far be it from you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do that. So instead, I'm going to talk about what it's actually about.
Yeah.
Chipmunks.
He's doing a wee on him.
So okay. So, do you actually know nothing about the Cold War?
I know nothing about it.
Right. So you're gonna make something up, are you?
Well, I know that they had bridges in the Cold War.
Yeah, they did have bridges
Oh,
in the
yeah.
Cold War. What are you
But
talking about? They didn't. They have bridges everywhere.
They have bridges in every war.
Well,
I think
Well,
that's all I know, though. And
but-
they brought people's births down.
They seize bridges and people can't get across rivers.
but not really so much in the Cold War.
No, because the Cold War was cold because they didn't do anything.
Cold War? Hell, it was a hot war. That's what McNamara says.
Strange McNamara.
Strange McNamara, a fascinating fellow who was had a big part in the Cold War.
I would show you the Fog of War, Joe, but you seem to have a strange aversion to watching documentaries about war.
Joseph doesn't like documentaries because he doesn't like finding out things about reality because they scare him.
I want
Yeah,
to see
'cause-
Sicko.
Don't really?
It
It's
came out
got-
months ago.
It's got
No,
lots of vomit
not
in it,
today.
and you don't like vomit. He lots
No.
of people vomit.
That would be kind of amusing.
I don't. Yeah.
Shall we tell Joseph about the Cold War?
Yes.
The Cold War was
Don't make it boring.
no. Well, it was a period of mutual aggression between
Russia and America.
the East, mostly Russia, and the West, mostly America. And it was like the arms race. You know about
It was
that?
like but the Cold War incorporated many political things like
Yeah.
the arms race, the space race.
Yes. Lots of spying. Most of the really interesting spying comes from the
Like
Cold
the
War.
technological
Really,
race.
it's like sibling rivalry.
Yeah, it's much like that.
And the reason they call it
The Cold War is like a really good culture-based game of civilization.
Mm. The reason
they call it the
the
Cold
reason
War.
they call it the Cold War is because basically there wasn't a hell of a lot of action.
No.
It wasn't. There was always the threat of action.
There
was always the threat of nuclear war.
Yep.
Because that was the fad at the time.
Yep. The largest menace was what was called mutually assured destruction, which was where both powers, the America and the Russia, had got to a point where, if a nuclear war was launched, both countries would just completely annihilate one another. They would, in the words of Mr. Khrushchev, bury you.
If you've ever
I don't subscribe to this point of view. Believe me when I say it's true. I hope the Russians love their children too.
If you've ever ruined a game of Civilization, that is like my famous game where I made a roadway where I had a network of cities where a nuclear bomb would make its way on a magical mystery tour.
Oh,
across all the cities.
that was horrifying when you did
And,
that because it was like all the people
were paraded, like the nuclear warhead would be paraded around all the cities, and then it would make it to the end where it was launched, and then it would explode. And then gradually the world got greener and we were forced to move to Alpha Centauri.
Email in if you can think of a topic which we couldn't possibly turn into a nerdling a video game analogy. Yeah, so the Cold War it's a really interesting time, and all the good spying comes from it.
Anyway.
All the good James Bond and the
Yeah.
good Mr. Ripley.
How did it
Yeah.
end?
What I was initially trying
How
to...
did it end? Danny's going to tell us.
The Cold War.
After he tells us...
The Cold War,
well, historically,
many people...
legend has it that the
Mm.
Cold War ended with Mr. Reagan saying to
Yeah.
Mr. Gorbachev, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall," closing the gap between East and West Germany.
The Iron Curtain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it didn't.
No, the
really.
Iron Curtain was in Russia.
It didn't really.
But
yeah,
many people attribute the end of the Cold War to Reagan being out of power.
yeah. This is the thing, Joe, is that because it wasn't, because it was kind of like the war on terrorism, it's very hard to pinpoint an exact end point for it. And many people are saying that we're heading into another Cold War now.
A lot of people. There's a couple of things that people call the end of the Cold War. Reagan going out of power.
Yep.
And landing on the moon.
Yeah, and the fall of the Berlin Wall.
We didn't land
Yeah.
on the moon though.
No, but if we had.
Shut up.
Oh, shut up.
Now, I was raised in the
Of course we
tail
landed
end
on the moon. We
of
landed
the
on the
Cold
moon 3
War.
times.
I was raised. The Cold War was sort of winding down when I was a lad, and one of my most vivid memories from school is that for a treat one day they took us to see this guy who had devised like a performance art piece about what would happen if America decided to launch a nuclear missile on New Zealand.
Ooh.
And he made us he told us this big story about how horrifying it would be to hear the missile screaming down and just before it was to land on us and everything. And then we were made to read books and
You sure that this wasn't just some really kind of kooky civil defense lesson?
no, the civil defense lessons I'll tell you about another time.
Terrified you of earthquakes.
Yeah, the civil defense lessons told you all about what would happen if there was an earthquake, and somehow managed to blame the imminent threat of the earthquake upon the gummit. Because I was raised liberal faggoty, still am liberal faggoty, and so we like to blame everything on the big bad gummit. Oh, really? I should have Anyway. But no, we were made to read books about the horrible vomiting, ears falling off death that we would suffer if New Zealand was the victim of a nuclear holocaust. And what could we do about it? This was my big thing, is what do they expect us to do about it? Oh, Cold War halted because young child says don't make me puke. It was just fear-mongering for no good sake.
My original point about civilization, right, was that if...
Just in case we got onto anything too lively.
If America and Russia were at that stage in the throes of nuclear war,
yeah,
that wouldn't just destroy them, it would destroy everyone else.
Yep.
Because...
What was the fact at one time? There were enough nuclear arms stockpiled to destroy a third of the Earth's surface.
Yeah.
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 But they wouldn't. They'd just kick the shit out of a fifth of the world's
that's
surface.
that's another end of the Cold War, quote unquote, when Russia announced that they'd be dismantling their nuclear weapons.
Probably the biggest time of threat in the Cold War, Joseph, was when the Cuban menace.
Oh, the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yes,
Alright,
the Cuban Missile
we've
Crisis,
got to wrap up now.
which we
Guys,
don't care about
wrap
apparently. Okay, so in conclusion, you now know a lot about the Cold War that you didn't used to know.
Great.
Hurrah
So,
for everything.
We'll be
And
back.
you knew nothing.
We'll be back with something else. God, I'm sick. See you later.
Okay, we'll be back soon.